Hello there, and welcome to the Wealthy Lala Show with myself, Laurie Laursen. Today is episode 161. And what kind of fun stuff are we going to talk about today? I wonder. Well, what I wanted to venture into was this. Like today, we ended up having all of our kids over. And other than our one son in law, we had all of them here. So it was really fun. And my mother in law, she has dementia. And so we will pick her up usually about once every couple of months or something like that, and then bring her over for lunch and, just to kind of for a change it up. And so today was one of those days. And it was also, it's a nice invitation to do it that way. I don't know if invitation is really the word, but it's another way of doing it that makes it create greater for everybody. Because with the way my mother-in-law is, she's changed so much. She doesn't remember very many things. She's actually just beginning to where she doesn't remember our kids' names if they aren't mentioned, like for her to try and pull it out of her thoughts. She remembers we have two sons, but couldn't remember what their names were. One day just recently, we were talking to her about our daughter who's expecting, and she was like, and whose daughter is she again? And you just see the change. And what we've discovered is that the more of us that kind of get together while she's around, it's just more fun for all of us to really enjoy, being with her. If anything, she probably gets more quieter. Not probably, but she does. She gets a lot quieter. She doesn't say much. And we just kind of all roll with it. Like usually if there's just a couple of us, like my husband and I there, which is totally fine when we do that, she will usually ask us the same questions over and over and over and over again. So if you stay for 30 minutes, half an hour, hour and a half kind of thing, you will hear the same thing over and over again. And that's totally fine. And sometimes to make it easier or different is if we have other people around, like one of our kids get to come, or like today we have all three of our kids there. It allows them to see their grandma, who's changed a lot, in an environment that is just, more comfortable for everyone. And she has a tendency to become really quiet when there's a lot of people around, but settled and really quiet. So we all kind of just sort of visit, and she just enjoys listening in. And then, whichever one of us takes her home, takes her home. So it's just kind of interesting. And when these family get-togethers are created, whether it's just with one of our kids or with two of our kids or with three of them like today, or with parents or grandparents or, whatever. I just really remember before being so geared up for, serving food, and so much of the pleasure was derived in making sure everybody else was happy and looked after. So whether it was by the food I chose to make, or making sure everybody had, say, drinks, or I was just so happy that everybody else was happy. And one of the things that I've started bringing in more is what is actually fun with me with all of it. What, what's in it for me? Often as mothers, and I'm going to say more my generation, so I'm in my 50s, a lot of us were taught to put others first, and put our kids first and make sure everyone else is looked after. And what I've discovered as I've lived my life, and especially watching some of the younger generation who do take more care in looking after themselves. And I would say that more where I see the gift in that is after having created, a dis-ease in my body, and going through the place of seeing how I created that, or what it was that created that in my world, that I did put everybody else first. I mean, it was unhappiness too, so like it wasn't just one thing, but I could see where I was using looking after other people as a distraction to not see what I needed, to not ask for what I needed, to not see that what I would like was important, to see that um that my happiness was important at all. I really just sort of jumped into the point of view that if everyone else was happy, I was happy. And I've since discovered that there's much more to it. Am I happy when other people are happy? Oh, absolutely. And is my happiness important now too? Abso-freaking-lutely. It is so high on the scale now. I know that my life was meant for me to live and enjoy, not for me to have it and give it away. Like, without the awareness of what it was creating. Like, yeah, guys, like, this isn't a one size fits all. For each of us that are mothers and caregivers of any kind, even if you work in a hospital or you do any kind of thing, could be children, could be pets, could be people, whatever it is, are you doing what you're doing with the awareness that it actually creates greater for you? So, one of the things I had done was yesterday I made a really big pot of turkey soup. I had things made up ahead of time so that I knew that when we went to eat today, it was something that I was going to be able to stay present for and enjoy and have conversations with. Because I kind of noticed that sometimes when I do these get-togethers and, say we do all this cooking and stuff like that, by the end, everything is, say, maybe for the most part cleaned up and put away, but there really wasn't a whole lot of visiting done on my part. I didn't really check in with like how is everybody doing. And I am surprised that I am yawning. I know it's not surprising that I'm yawning, but I'm surprised with this conversation that I'm yawning. I've actually really discovered that my body is a facilitator of change, or my awareness and acknowledgement and speaking of things is a facilitator of change. And one of the ways my body transforms that change is through yawning. So, because again, I had a great sleep last night. So, yeah. So, I'd love to invite people to become even more aware of your world and look at what you're choosing and look at what you're choosing for you and what you're choosing for others. And, some people can be what they call of service, and it's something that truly fills them up. And it's like they come from the space of having a full cup. And so the service that they gift to others is the expansion of that. But those of us that have given from a half full or an empty cup, if you actually really take the time to look at it, it can create a destruction in your life, your living, and your body. And especially if you throw some judgment in there, well, I should be, blah, blah, blah. I recently just had an aunt pass away, and she had a conversation with someone and said she felt really wrong that as she was at the end of her life here and sick, She felt like it was really, really wrong that she was the one not taking care of the kids or her kids, that it was her kids looking after her. And, those of us could say, well, hey, well, like jeepers, just, don't be silly. Just get over it. Let people take care of you. Yet, if in your world you feel like that's really wrong, it's going to be really difficult to receive that. It's easy for those of us that are on the other side of it to say, oh, well, just receive it. So often it's our points of view in how we perceive something. Like my need before to make sure that everybody was happy was that I was looking for an internal acknowledgement or validation, or actually an outside acknowledgement and validation, rather than it be an internal one. That I was really happy with how everything had turned out, that I was grateful that, if I missed conversations, like kind of what was my target of this day. And, for me today, the target was to make a big pot of soup, have most everything done the day before, set up before everybody got there so that I could sit and be present and enjoy it also. And another time, it might be where we actually we're like, you know what? I want to make this dinner, like say a good turkey Thanksgiving dinner or Easter dinner. I want to make this dinner and I don't care how much work it's going to be. I want to put this out there. And I may get very little visiting in, and that's what fills me up that day. But it's knowing that, like, what is it that you need? One of the things like thinking about my aunt is that having been, myself created an illness in my body or disease in my body from what I consider a pretty young age. I didn't have to, but I learned to receive. So I learned to let other people do things for me. When I'd go to the Costco grocery store, I would ask, is there someone who can help me take the dog food out to the bag, or out to the dog food bag out to the vehicle and put it in my vehicle? I would ask random people walking by my vehicle, could you please help me put this in my vehicle? And you know what? Out of all the times that I've ever asked for help, only one person said no, but they just said no to what I asked, and then they offered a different possibility. It's been so cool, like other people's willingness to help. And I can see from the generation that my aunt lived in that they're so much of their worth, especially for the most part, not all of them. And I know my aunt wasn't a full-time stay-at-home mom. That's where you derive your value from. And of course, what's really interesting too, like as I'm looking at this, I'm like, God, life is just so evolving. I used to work before, now I'm currently not working, like as in outside of the home in a regular job, like 9 to 5 or whatever you want to call it. That these needing to be in question is so valuable, or not needing, the gift of staying in question for yourself, for each different part of your life, before you have kids, when you have kids, as your kids get older, if you get sick, if you start to feel better, after your kids leave home, if you're then a grandparent, like all of those different, you're working or then you're not working. The gift of having questions with all of that, to me, is just incredibly invaluable. For myself, when I was first not feeling well, actually it really took a long time, but the idea of asking people to help me was just something I didn't even consider. And then I had other people like suggest to me, oh, well, why don't you get this, or why don't you ask these people to do this? And it was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And it took me a really long time to let that be a possibility in my world. And then as I took more classes and learned more about questions, and then I started to ask what would actually create greater for me and what was light or heavy for me, I allowed myself to receive a lot more, a lot quicker. So yeah, it's just this, it's so interesting. So just, I would love to invite you, in your day, just look around in your day, in your life. Is there something that you could question that would actually create more ease in your world, more joy in your world, more fun in your world, even if it goes against everything you've taught yourself to believe up until now? Sometimes that can be really uncomfortable. And it can also really invite you to something really incredible and really special. So, yeah, on that note, I'm going to sign off for today. And I really wish you guys an amazing day. Have fun being in question. Enjoy your life. And I've got a really big hug for you. And thanks again for listening. Take care. From the Wealthy Lala.